Welcome back. John Parker is with us today. He oversees the Landscape Committee on GRF, among being the board president of GRF. But today we're talking about the Landscape Committee and interesting about the Arbor Pro program that we were just chatting about.
Yes, at our meeting yesterday, we had the representatives from Arbor Pro, and this is a company that we purchased their software to create a complete inventory of our trees, and they're almost 100% complete. And so far to date, they have inventoried 29,091 trees.
Wow.
And they still have a few more to go. And this uses GPS satellite technology. And they had on the screen the entire village, and you could put in certain data, like a particular species of tree, and you just click the button, and it shows the location of every one of those trees. And then we had a woman in the audience who has a biology background, and she's just recently moved to the area, and she was interested in a certain insect that she had done some research on. Well, when they inventoried the trees, they noted whether that insect was present or not. So on another, they just scrolled down, hit that insect, pressed a button, and it showed every tree in the village that had that borer. So it's an incredible tool.
Yeah, it really is.
And there will be a component, and once we get our new website going, and once Chuck Holland gets a couple of seconds to breathe, we probably will put the user-friendly public portion of it on the website, so that any resident could put in their location, and if they wanted to know about a particular tree, it would give them, like what the tree is.
Yeah.
And then they could do further on the internet. You could look up all about that tree. Our data field is much greater because it goes into maintenance records and pruning cycles and grading the condition and so on. It's an incredible program. And then
it sounds like it.
It has, it can also locate physical elements like fire hydrants and light posts and all that sort of thing. And for instance, in the garden center, they're gonna include the garden center, and we actually can focus on an area, blow it up, and just make a little outline, and it will calculate how many square feet there are.
Wow.
We can also do that for any place in our landscape. So for instance, if you want to know how many square feet of turf there is, for instance, to calculate how much fertilizer or herbicide to put on an area, it's just a super calculation tool as well.
That's amazing.
And included in our contract with this company is training our staff, and 1 year. You have a question, call them up for a year, no charge, whatever. And they're fairly, I want to say they're in Yorba Linda.
Okay.
I know they're here in Southern California, almost in Orange County somewhere.
Nice.
So, and they said, most of the things we do is online when we do that side of service, but here it will be in person. Yeah. And they've been really good people to work with, so we have very high expectations.
Did they actually go out with a team of people?
Oh, yeah.
Because to do that many trees in that short amount of time is incredible.
They had a little handheld device that they used and kept feeding the data and feeding the data. And you see, this totally coincides and coordinates with our customer service program, where we're trying to get away from paper.
Right, right.
And most of the people out in the field will have tablets. And so this is just what you can pull up on and what you can pull up on a phone is amazing. But I think the tablet will probably be a little bit more. But it all works on phones and tablets and so on.
That's amazing.
It eliminates paper. It generates work orders. It's.
What a great tool. I mean, that really is.
It was very exciting, and the company itself, the gentleman who runs the company, has such enthusiasm that it's infectious.
That's fantastic. Well, it'll be interesting to see that online once it gets up.
And then we talked about the garden center, and Mindy Fielding, who works in our landscape department. She and I on Tuesday spoke to the garden center group over at Clubhouse 6 at their meeting, and they had 19 questions for me. So I can safely say that anybody who attended that meeting is fully informed about what has happened and what will happen in the garden center. And right now, our primary goal is to get the perimeter fencing done. And staff has shooting for a mid-February deadline.
Okay.
We'll see. And that's going to mean that to get into Garden Center 2, you're going to have a card, and that will open the gate. And only garden lessees will have that access. And if their guest is with them,
right,
then in Garden Center 1, they have completed the card swipe technology at the tennis courts.
Okay.
So
that's what you're gonna.
No, we're saving the old locks.
Oh, okay.
The old combination locks that were at the tennis court, because Garden Center 1 has no electricity.
Oh, that's right.
So you can't.
Yeah.
So we're going to reuse those locks, and that'll be. And we hope to develop some sort of a system where the code can be changed on a fairly regular basis, but easily, so that the people who use it know. So that's something to deal with. Once those two centers are considered secure, and we hope that's by mid-February, in the meantime, staff has been walking the garden centers, and they have been essentially evaluating the existing garden enclosures and simply saying, this does not meet our standards and will have to be removed.
Okay.
But nothing will have to be removed until the place is secure.
Okay.
But what we want is that people know that they're going to have to tear their thing down prior to releasing their plot.
Okay.
Not that they release it up and all of a sudden, oh my God, I have to tear my fence down. So this is creating a few problems for finance, because we're off schedule, and paying the bills. But that's kind of what the timeline we're working on, so that people have information on which to make a decision.
Do you see a time with Garden Center 1 getting electricity, getting power over there, so you can have lights and people go out at night and all?
We have a bid for $81,000 or $82,000, and the two bids, one was to look at solar, one was to look at typical installation. But when we started asking questions about those bids, it seemed like maybe they weren't as complete as they needed to be. So those are being reviewed. In the meantime, Kurt Ron said, have we ever looked in Garden Center 1, below Garden Center 1 is an El Toro Water District facility, and Kurt is pretty sure that there's a pumping station there. Well, if there's a pumping station, there's power.
Right.
So what we're hoping is at least that we can look at the feasibility of that, and that would be a much shorter run.
Right.
And hopefully less money. It probably would require, easements and that sort of thing. But we are looking at getting electricity there, and if it doesn't become prohibitive, we'll do it. It's existed for 50 years without it.
Right,
but it should have it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, then Mike Swinholm gave an update on the creek. And of course, these rains have been flushing the creek, which is something that really, really was long overdue.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Because we haven't had a really good flow of water there on a regular basis for quite a while. And that makes a big difference. And there has been some damage to our plantings as part of the mitigation because of the force of the water, but that was kind of expected. And fortunately, our biologists that we have, that monitors the maintenance period of the mitigation, has said that's okay, it will not affect the maintenance period. Okay. So as soon as you know that the rains have pretty much subsided, so spring, we replant and we're okay. Okay. So well, that's good. So that's a good thing. And we have a maintenance period where we have to get a permit that we're allowed to actually do things in the creek. And that period ends January 31st. Okay. And we are allowed to go in and cut the cattails to a certain height and we're actually allowed to go in a second time if it's in this window of time.
Okay.
So we're hoping that we can get in there between the rains before the 31st and at least work on the cattails that are upstream from the bridge.
Okay.
Because that seems to be the area of greatest complaint.
Okay. And of course you have to do that because Aliso Creek is part of the ecosystem running up from Holy Jim and all the way down.
Well,
so.
there are 14 jurisdictions in the creek.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But we have employed a company, and I don't want to misname their name. Sorry, this is not great television, me fishing for... We've contracted Dudek Natural Resource Management for a scope of work and costs to work with the state to discuss agreement requirements and potential amendments in order to give staff more flexibility on maintenance.
Okay.
So this is essentially a company that looks at what the law says and then works with the people that are supposed to be enforcing it and getting it right down to the nitty-gritty. Can we do this or can we do that?
Right.
So that it's not such a blanket thing for each site. And that may make some of our maintenance operations simpler in the creek.
Right, exactly.
And Lori and Brad have employed this company when they in their past experience, and were able to get some flexibility on some of the environmental conditions.
Great. Yeah, that's good.
And then the next thing was rain statistics.
Yes.
And I asked Kurt, I said, do we have any information? I assumed we had the weather station, and we do.
Yes.
And then we have the CIMAS system, which is statewide. The nearest station is Irvine. But here in Laguna Woods, in the month of October, November, December 2016.
Okay, I'm going to get out mine too. I'm going to compare just to see.
We had 6.5 inches.
Okay.
1.71 in October, 1.31 in November, and 4.48 in December.
Okay, I have a little bit more in December, but then I'm up in RSM on the upslopes.
The hills catch the clouds a little longer.
Exactly, yeah.
And then if you look at what's happened this month.
Right.
So it's really optimistic on the rainfall, and I mean 6.5 inches is more than we received some of the past years.
Yeah.
And our average is 12.69. Is our average.
Right.
And we have not even reached that in 9 of the last 12 years.
Yeah,
We've been
so that's
under
good.
average. So these rains are just, couldn't be better.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like what I have so far to date in January, if you count yesterday and today, yesterday we got a little over an inch, and obviously today we're going to get at least an inch. So my thing so far is almost 6 inches so far in January, which is probably, near.
Well, then potentially by the end of the month, we're above average.
Yeah, exactly, because we got Sunday and Monday. That is supposed to be even bigger than what we're having today. So we'll see, but we're getting a lot in there, that's for sure.
Well, I know there's a lineup in the green room.
Yes,
so.
All right. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks,
I appreciate it. I love the Arbor Pro. I can't wait to see that in action.
And it'll be something that our residents will be able to use as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay. All right, we'll get you unhooked, and we'll be back in just a moment.